Let's take a trip back in time to remember 10 old beer brands people loved. Are they really gone, or can you still find them? Let's find out. Rheingold beer. Have you ever heard the jingle, "My beer is Rheingold, the dry beer"?
My beer is Rheingold, the dry beer.
For many older New Yorkers, that line brings back more than just a drink. It brings back memories. The story starts in 1840 when Samuel Liebmann, a German-Jewish brewer, began making beer in Ludwigsburg. In 1850, his family moved to Brooklyn and kept brewing. That's where Rheingold really became popular. But it wasn't just about the beer. In the 1950s and 60s, the Miss Rheingold contest turned it into something special. Pictures of the contestants were everywhere, in store windows, on subway cars, and on posters all over the city. People voted for their favorite, and it became a fun tradition. In some years, more people voted in that contest than in real elections. Sports fans knew the name too. Rheingold was the official beer of the New York Mets on the radio. If you went to Shea Stadium in the 60s, you probably saw people drinking it while cheering for the team. For 30 years, Rheingold was New York's favorite beer. But in 1976, the brewery closed and the brand disappeared. However, it wasn't gone forever. Another company brought it back later, so you might still find it sometimes. Does this story remind you of Rheingold? Share your memories with us. Olympia beer.
It's the water oak that makes it only beer.
Do you remember seeing Olympia beer in the fridge back in the 1960s? In the U.S., light lager beers have always been popular, and each region has its favorite. For much of the 20th century, Olympia beer was a top choice in Washington state. Before Seattle became famous for fancy coffee and craft beer, it was a working-class city where people loved hanging out with friends, and Olympia beer was always part of the fun. Olympia beer was created in 1896 by Leopold Friedrich Schmidt, a German immigrant. Its slogan, "It's the water," made people believe its great taste came from the local water. But what made it extra popular was the price. You could often find a case for under $5 at the grocery store. Sadly, in 2003, production in Tumwater stopped when Pabst Brewing Company moved operations to California. Then, in January 2021, Pabst stopped making Olympia beer altogether because fewer people were buying it. Now it's a discontinued beer that doesn't exist anymore. Falstaff. Dad's favorite beer. Falstaff was once a big name in St. Louis, just like Budweiser. Founded in 1840, it became super popular by the 1960s, ranking as the third most loved beer in the U.S. At its peak in 1966, Falstaff was making 7 million barrels of beer. Do you remember this beer from the 60s? Using a church key to pop open the cans was always part of the fun, and if you were a baseball fan, you might recall that Falstaff sponsored Cardinals broadcasts in the 1970s, making it even more special for sports lovers. Production stopped for good in 2005, but who else misses it? And let's not forget the bottle caps with rebus puzzles on them. They were so much fun to solve. Got any good memories of Falstaff? Hamm's beer. Hamm's beer, first brewed in Minnesota in 1865, is a classic American favorite. Made with pure water, barley malt, grain, and hops, it's known for being born in the land of sky blue waters. Hamm's is a smooth, refreshing lager that's perfect for a hot summer day, and it didn't hurt that it was affordable, too. Who remembers the funny Hamm's beer commercials and that catchy jingle? Let's not forget the Hamm's Bear, their famous mascot. This lovable cartoon character starred in TV and print ads, making people laugh and fall in love with the brand. While Hamm's isn't a disappeared beer, it still holds a special place on this list because of the great memories tied to it. Today, it's made by Molson Coors Beverage Company. Even though it's been through some changes over the years, you can still find it in some places, and it's still enjoyed by fans. What about you? Do you have fun memories of Hamm's beer? Share your stories in the comments below. Stroh's beer.
'Cause a good time's better with a good time beer, and Stroh's is smoking here.
Here's another vintage beer that brings back good memories. Stroh's was famous for being fire brewed, which meant they used a direct flame to heat the brew kettle. This unique method gave their beer a flavor some say was rich and bold, perfect to enjoy with Detroit-style pizza. The story of Stroh's began in 1775 in Germany, where Johann Peter Stroh started brewing beer. He moved to the USA in 1850 and opened his own brewery in Detroit. Later, his son, Bernhard Stroh Jr., grew the business, winning awards and renaming it the Stroh Brewing Company. During Prohibition, they had to get creative to survive, making other products instead of beer. Over the years, the company went through changes and was eventually sold to Miller and Pabst Brewing Companies in 1999. Today, Stroh's is owned by Pabst, and in 2016 they even started brewing again in Detroit. And let's not forget Alex, their fun and lovable mascot. Do you have any memories of Stroh's? Share your stories with us. Schmidt's.
Schmidt's, one beautiful beer.
Schmidt's beer was created by Jacob Schmidt, a German immigrant who opened his brewery in 1855 in Minnesota. Back then, the brand became very popular for the high quality of its beers, especially the famous Schmidt City Club beer. One of the most memorable things about Schmidt's was its incredible can designs. Decorated with scenes of hunting, fishing, and beautiful natural landscapes, they captured the outdoor spirit of the American Midwest. These designs weren't just eye-catching. They became sought-after collector's items, cherished by fans and collectors around the world. The attention to detail in the illustrations turned every can into a small piece of art, celebrating the connection between the beer and the region's lifestyle. Despite its success, the brand faced challenges over time. After Jacob Schmidt's passing, the brewery changed hands multiple times and struggled in the market. In 2002, the brewery closed its doors, marking the end of an era. Even so, Schmidt's beer left a legacy that still lives on today. Its cans are remembered as iconic pieces of American brewing history, and collectors continue to treasure these relics. In St. Paul, the story of Schmidt's beer is celebrated by local groups and by everyone who fondly remembers this special part of the past. Pete's Wicked Ale. Pete's Wicked Ale was a beer many people loved, especially in the late 80s and 90s. It had a unique taste that made it stand out and became a favorite for Gen X. But sadly, it disappeared from shelves in 2011. The beer was first made in 1986 by a home brewer who loved experimenting with flavors. Pete's Wicked Ale became one of the first and most popular craft beers in the U.S. By the late 90s, it was the second most popular microbrew in the country, right behind Sam Adams. Unfortunately, changes to the recipe in 2000 upset loyal fans, and even the original brewer said the brand was no longer the same. Over time, its popularity faded, and production officially stopped in 2011. Even though it's gone, many people still have fond memories of Pete's Wicked Ale and the craft beer movement it helped inspire. Schaefer. Schaefer is the beer to have when you're having more than one. Do you remember that slogan? Schaefer beer is an old favorite that many people still think about fondly. It was created in 1842 by the F&M Schaefer Brewing Company and quickly became known for its great taste. For years, Schaefer was the go-to beer for parties and events across the U.S. In the 1950s and 1970s, it was one of the top-selling beers in the country, even ranking 5th at its peak. Over time, the brewery went through changes. Today, Pabst Brewing Company owns the rights to Schaefer and still makes a version of it, though it's a little different from the original. Do you remember enjoying Schaefer beer? Tell us your favorite memories. Meister Brau. Have you heard of Meister Brau? It was a popular beer from Chicago, brewed from 1891 to the early 70s. People in Chicago loved it, and it even sponsored the city's sports teams, like the White Sox, Blackhawks, and Bears. Even though it was a big hit in Chicago, Meister Brau didn't become as famous in other places. Eventually, Miller bought the brand and turned it into Miller Lite. While Miller Lite is still the official beer of the White Sox, some people say they miss the original taste of Meister Brau. Have you ever tried it? Let us know. Red, White, and Blue, our final vintage beer on the list. Red, White, and Blue was a favorite for many people, especially in the Midwest. This beer was super popular for Independence Day celebrations because it was light, easy to drink, and affordable, perfect for big holiday gatherings. Launched on July 4, 1899, it became a go-to option for anyone looking for a good beer that didn't cost too much. While no one is sure exactly when it disappeared, it was still around in the 1990s. In 2018, Pabst Milwaukee Brewery and Taproom brought it back as a draft beer, but sadly, the revival didn't last long. The tavern closed in 2020, and Red, White, and Blue disappeared again. Do you remember this classic beer? And before you go, which forgotten beers do you wish would make a comeback? Drop a comment below, and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching.